domain name dot lawyer, domain name dot lawyers, the plural, domain name dot attorney, domain name dot attorneys, domain name dot law, domain name dot ESQ, and these are actual examples of extensions that exist right now. So I'm sure you imagine just how much confusion is out there.
Yeah.
So personally, if anyone's watching, it's what I do. It's what I would recommend to absolutely anyone out there. If you're going to buy domains, buy the best of the best. And the best of the best means the very top meaningful .com domains. In my opinion, I, for one, especially with all of the confusion that is out there, I believe in staying away from anything that is not .com.
Okay. Okay, great. And is that so? With your domain names, is that what the subject matter of your blog started off with, or with your blogging? How did you start that?
To this day, I still primarily blog about domain names because, you know, that's what my target audience wants and so on.
Right.
But I do have a great platform in that I have an entire industry that's listening to me. And this makes it possible for me to talk about other things that I consider meaningful. So if I think that there's something wrong with current events in the world and so on, then I love the idea that I have a platform of people who are listening to me whenever I have something to say. And the same way some of my readers ended up becoming interested in the things I'm teaching about on the YouTube channel, so in economics in general. There also, a lot of them bought my book and so on. But the blog itself, it's still to this day a blog about investing in domains, but it gives me the opportunity to have people, to have a voice, basically. This is perhaps the most important thing to me. This is why I blog, why I write, why I publish YouTube videos. It's a privilege and sometimes a burden because, you know, the things that you say, the more people are listening, the more the things you say carry a certain weight. But the idea of having a voice, the idea of, you know, someone like me from the middle of nowhere, from Eastern Europe, having a voice and interacting and selling books to people from the US, from New Zealand, from Australia, from Africa, and so on, it's ridiculous. You know, if you think about just how weird, in the grand scheme of things, just how weird it is that we right now are having this very conversation, it is just spectacular. It's truly a privilege that nobody else aside from our generations has had so far.
With your YouTube videos, how did that – because I watched a few this afternoon, and they're really good and really informative, and I like how they're short and to the point, and the animation is great. What was the process on, first off, you deciding that you wanted to make short economics-based videos, and how did you go about setting all of that up?
My primary driver has been the fact that just looking around me, I've noticed that, you know, my friends, my family members, and so on, the average person has an absolutely awful economic education. And this is because when they were taught economics in high school, for example, or even those who went to college and studied economics, it was clear to me that economics was not taught properly, and it was taught in a way that drove people away. And that's just plain wrong because economics is all around us. You know, you might not know, you might not invest in anything. You might hate the idea of investing in stocks and think that, no, I don't want to make economic decisions. But by merely deciding to keep your money in cash rather than in stocks, you're already making an economic decision. So the main aspect I want to get across is the fact that whether we realize it or not, we're making economic decisions each day. And sometimes economic factors affect our lives in truly meaningful ways. Like, for example, a financial crisis. It can ruin lives if you're not ready. And you cannot use the fact that, yeah, I never cared about economics, so just Mr. Financial Crisis, please ignore me. That's not going to work. A financial crisis is going to come whether you're ready or not, whether you studied economics or not. So these are things you cannot run away from, so to speak. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone should be able to write a PhD thesis in economics. No, but it does mean that absolutely everyone, regardless of occupation, needs to know his basic economics. There's just no way around that. So, okay, I said, I'm going to do my best to teach these people economics. So I started with simple stuff. I started with explaining what inflation is, what deflation is. Then I moved on to covering more complex topics and so on. I've even covered fractional reserve banking, derivatives that helped, quote unquote, helped cause the financial crisis and so on. And as time passed, I've noticed that it works. I have people each month. I come across at least a few people who come on my channel and comment and say, "Oh my God, I always thought economics was so hard, and it was always the subject I knew nothing about. I wanted to know nothing about," which some of them hated it because it was taught in such a boring manner. And they tell me that, "Oh my God, I'm watching your videos, and I never realized this complicated thingamajiggs can be so simple." And that's how it started. That's what fueled me. The project ended up as me just, kind of treating it like a hobby, thinking that, okay, I'm going to publish a video maybe once a month or so, and so on. But people loved it, and time passed, and more people appreciated it. And it didn't start out as a project meant for economics students. But I have to say that a lot of my traffic comes from students, from people who actually went to college and are studying this stuff. And you know what's strange? That students have told me the exact same thing that regular people have. That, oh my God, if you just simplify economics, if you just focus like what I'm doing on explaining rather than making students memorize definitions that they forget a minute after the exam, then it's going to work. I love things that work. And a lot of times, simple things work, and I can achieve more by getting people to watch one of my 1-minute video than forcing them to stay in class for 2 hours and not wait, 2 hours that seem that they're not going to end soon enough. The main difference is the fact that the former works and the latter doesn't. That's what keeps me going. The fact that economics works. And the results are starting to be seen, and not just among regular people, not just among students, but for example, I think 11 or so days ago, I found out that a college professor from the biggest university in the United Kingdom will be using my videos in her classes. So the videos are genuinely starting to make their way into classrooms as well. And it's just ridiculous because all of this started out as just me saying, I'm just going to play around with this a bit. I think I can provide value. Let's see what's going to happen. And what happened is that, I basically found a system of teaching economics that works. That's all there is to it. It simply works.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's wonderful. And like I said, it's having watched your videos this afternoon. They're great and they're very informative. And you're right. They're like it's little nuggets of information that are very easy to digest, and they make clear sense. I'm curious then, when did you decide to write a book about finance?
Well, I have decided to write a book that nobody else thought about writing, because if you think about it, how many people would you say make money online in one way or another? So if we were to add all of the freelancers, all of the domain investors, web developers, cryptocurrency investors, online entrepreneurs, and so on, my best guess that we're talking in the millions. And it's a number that keeps growing and growing and growing. And this type of person, I have noticed over the years from being involved in so many projects and talking to so many different people who make money online across so many different industries, you cannot help but notice common denominators, patterns, things that people who make money online have in common, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And here we have an audience of millions upon millions of people who have a lot in common, a lot more than people realize, but nobody thought about writing a book that teaches primarily those people how to be smart with their finances. Time and time again, I've noticed that people who are extremely smart enough to make a lot of money on the internet, ended up squandering it all. And they didn't squander it because, of some complex scenario. They squandered it because they didn't have their basic economics straight. So by writing it's obviously the best book in the world about the topic because it's the only one.
Right.
It's the only it's the only personal finance book out there written for the millions of people who make money online and who, to a very large degree, don't have their basic economics straight. Mm-hmm. And I make it clear in my book, the main reason why I've written it is the fact that time and time again, I have been shocked at how smart people, brilliant people, people who were smart enough to make money online in the first place ended up losing it all because they didn't have at least some very basic financial education. And this is what brought me, this is what made me write Wealth Management 2.0. The fact that, strangely enough, a person with my ridiculously weird skill set was finally in a position to put all of these skills to good use. Because unlike most economists, I can genuinely say that I relate to my audience because I'm one of them. I'm not some kind of economics scourgy university professor who's sitting in his ivory tower looking down upon everyone and not understanding his audience. I do bring a good balance on the table by, on the one hand, having the economic credentials it takes to be taken seriously as an economist, but on the other hand, being involved in so many online industries has made it possible for me to connect with my audience in such a way in which I have a hard time believing that anyone can match. I've been a freelancer myself. Mm-hmm. I've been a web developer myself. I've been a digital asset investor myself. I publish YouTube videos myself. I've run even hosting businesses. I've seen the entire internet under the hood, so to speak. So this weird set of skills and life experience makes me, I've decided, capable of meaningfully and credibly telling people that, look, I think you need to have basic sound financial education, and I'm going to provide it through the book I've written.
So in your book, then, what are, in your opinion, based off of your own, your research and what you've done, what are some solid financial things that freelancers and people who work online can do that will make sure that they don't suddenly squander all of their money?
Well, primarily you have to have a coherent and logical approach. Like, okay, here you are, someone who makes decent money online and so on, and like you said, he wants to become better. Where does he start? Well, he starts not by learning what he should be doing, but by finding out first and foremost what he shouldn't be doing. Like, if I have someone who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes each day, the first thing I tell him is that it's important, in his case, what not to do. Because if you want to give health advice to someone who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes per day, you're not going to tell him to eat an orange or go jog for a mile. You're going to tell him why it's such a bad idea to smoke 3 packs of cigarettes. In the same way, in my book, before giving people the tools they need to, build their own portfolio, to figure out what to invest in and so on, I've taken the most common and dangerous mistakes that I have noticed are made, particularly by those who make money online. And I told people, this is where you have to start, by identifying these mistakes and avoiding them. And a lot of mistakes are so misleadingly tricky that is just ridiculous. I'm not talking about just the obvious, oh my God, you shouldn't spend all your money on a new Mercedes-Benz. Yeah. I'm talking about, how sometimes even the things society encourages to do are wrong. Like, for example, spending everything you have and becoming a financial slave by getting a mortgage for a huge house you cannot afford, but with which you want to impress your neighbors. It's stuff like that misleadingly creeps in on us and keeps us from making what are essentially simple financial choices. And I tell people in my book, time and time again, that you can have 2 almost identical individuals with similar skill sets, with a similar job, a similar family situation, and so on. So Bill and John can be 55-year-olds with 2 kids each and who worked as freelance designers. Yet at the age 55, one of them might be financially independent, financially secure, with enough money set aside to send his kids to college, whereas the other can still be debt-ridden, living contract to contract, and so on. And this is what people have to understand, that the difference between the two is frequently in life not the fact that one of them was brilliant and the other one was stupid. The difference is just in a lot of